Yeah.
I was wondering if you could address the difference between the LSD experience and mushroom experience, if there is a difference, and also your feelings about marijuana as an older state.
Well, the LSD experience is, I speak only from my own experience, of course, but to me it seemed more psychoanalytical than psychedelic. I was in my early 20s when I encountered LSD. Maybe I had more stuff, as they say, to deal with. But it was not a reliable visionary drug for me. It caused me to have funny ideas. It seemed mostly to be a thought thing, but not a visual thing. And somehow in my education, somewhere along the way, I had picked up this bias in favor of the visual channel. I wasn't satisfied with LSD. I wanted those things that Havelock Ellis describes, where he talks about, jeweled ruins and phosphorescent maidens in diaphanous gowns howling demon songs beneath a violet moon. And that was what I wanted, not funny ideas. And what I found, and I worked pretty diligently at it with LSD, I found that my most satisfying LSD experiences were while smoking hash. And that really did do something interesting, sent it skittering off in these wonderful visionary directions. But these things do have characters. And this is something probably worth talking about in this group, that at low doses, everything seems like everything else. In other words, a little mescaline, a tiny amount of LSD, a little bit of MDMA, a tiny tad of psilocybin. All of these things simply register as wired, arousal, eager to hear what's being said and follow the thread of the argument, and just absolutely fascinated by what's going on, no matter what's going on. But as you raise the dose, the character of these things begins to appear. And, for instance, psilocybin is, to my mind, in many ways, the most anomalous. Because, number one, this thing about how it speaks, it does speak, and none of the others do. The others, you may occasionally, in years of fiddling, get a sentence or two, but the mushroom just is voluble. It just comes on and raves, and sometimes and people have said to me, it really does rave. It's not a calm, it's not a go with the flow rap. It's rap about planetary destiny in the next 10 million years and the last 10 million years, and it's this trumpet blast, Cecil B. DeMille, hyper, real like that. Well, then something like ayahuasca, which is this thing these shamans use in the Amazon basin that's based on DMT and monoamine oxidase inhibitors, you take that and it's about the rivers and the jungle and these people and their humility and dignity, and your humility and dignity, and the earth and plants and life and water and sunlight, and it's this totally earthbound, terrestrial, life-affirming thing. And it does not speak, but it's an eye, and its language is visual. And after an ayahuasca trip, you just feel like your eyes are literally bulging out of your head. You've spent 6 hours looking, just, not really doing anything else but looking. Well, then something like Datura has this watery, magical, forgetful, kind of witchy, occult quality. It's, shadows, shadows, and a peculiar quality of erosion of your own attention, so that, no matter who you are, you find yourself wandering through empty colonnades and under a sky pregnant with the possibility of rain. I mean, it's this strange, de Kierkegaard-esque kind of landscape. DMT has another quality. It seems to convey you into just a world of utter outrage, where all linguistic, sensory, and analytical machinery is just brought to a screeching halt. So it's important to learn what you like and to learn what you can put up with. Someone at a recent weekend who takes mushrooms quite religiously and quite regularly, and I said, does it ever get easier? And he said, no, it never gets easier. Each time what I pray as I go into it is, please let me be able to stand a little bit more. Because, finally it is the real mystery. So the only way your relationship to it can end is by you averting your gaze. Because no human being can gaze into it endlessly, because it is, it is what it says it is. It is the other. I was groping for the Hebrew, but not finding it. Yes. Yeah.
Just want to follow up on that question a little bit. Stan Grof describes LSD as a non-specific amplifier. And by that he means it amplifies what's already existing in the psyche. And he uses this metaphor that LSD serves as a kind of telescope or microscope, in that it does not itself produce the experience, but rather it enables you to have an experience that's already there in potentia, latent in your psyche. And I just wonder if you could comment on that, since you just now described the various psychoactives as having a character. So in his framework, would you disagree with it, or would you say that the various telescopes are tinted with a certain lens, or how would you sort of reconcile?
Well, at the beginning of your question, you characterized LSD. It's that it is a non-specific amplifier, but of the contents of the personal unconscious and the sensorium. What people notice about LSD is either what's right or wrong with themselves, or how freaky the world is. A bug, a drop of water, it can be anything. But you discover the strangest things on LSD, and they're real things. I mean, relationships of reflections and windows. And it basically seems to be a tremendous amplifier of attention and analysis of the input of attention when directed into the outer world. And when directed into the inner world, it's an analytical tool for looking at past history of the individual, which is what I call the personal unconscious. The thing that always puzzled me about enthusiasts of LSD was that they claimed that beyond this lie what they called the white light, which they put great store by and made all kinds of Buddhist associations to it. I don't know if I've ever had the white light experience. As I go deeper into strong psychedelics, what happens is multiplicity proliferates. There is not a simplifying. There is a further and further and further complexifying. And I was talking to someone at Ojai Foundation about this, and they said, but surely beyond all this there is some kind of simplification and unity. And I said, well, that I wasn't sure, that maybe it's just, an infinite samsaric ocean in all directions, in all dimensions, forever. Ketamine comes closer to providing a no observer, nothing observed kind of state. but you can't do much with that. I mean, you can have it, but there is, of course, with the dropping of all boundaries, a feeling of release. But what I'm interested in are bringing back artifacts to share with the tribe, and I've accepted that they will come in the form of either things that can be painted or things that can be said. And since I'm better at the saying than the painting, I work like that. Stan is a good friend of mine. We've talked about this over the years. I just can't confirm his maps of the psyche. I don't see those states occurring along a continuum the way that he says they do. I think it's much more chaotic, and that if his categories work to facilitate psychotherapy, then that's good, because that's what he's interested in. In other words, I see his maps as very, very provisional and useless and useful for navigating, but I doubt that when we get the final maps, if we ever do, that they will bear terrifically much resemblance to that. And I think he would agree with that. I mean, we're not at loggerheads about this. Anybody who works with psychedelics, their ultimate position is that, hell, they don't know.